This is the story of the biggest art heist in U.S. history, the theft of over 130 pieces of art worth more than $500 million from a single museum in Boston. But the crazy thing is, it still hasn't been solved. This is the $500 million museum heist, still unsolved. On March 18, 1990, just before midnight, two men dressed as police officers walked into the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. The museum was located in the Fenway section of Boston, an area known for its Victorian-era buildings. Built by wealthy businessman and art collector Isabella Stewart Gardner, the museum had quickly become one of the most important contemporary art museums in the United States since opening to the public in 1903. In fact, some claimed that its collection of paintings, sculptures, and other works of art was even better than some of the big museums like the Metropolitan in New York City. However, because the museum was so small with only around 130 pieces, it also made it an easy target, and these two men knew exactly what they were doing. They knocked on the back door until someone opened it, thinking it was a police officer. Once inside, they bound the three employees with electrical cords and brought them into a small office where they kept them under guard, while two other accomplices came into the main gallery. Here, the men began cutting the alarm wires and making their way through the museum. With the silent alarm and no lights on, they easily moved through the museum, stealing anything valuable they could find. In total, 13 works of art were stolen that night, with 9 of those being paintings. Some of the works taken included Rembrandt's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee, a bronze sculpture of a Malay by Auguste Rodin, and a Vermeer painting titled The Concert. The total value of the artwork taken that night would be worth close to $500 million today. Unfortunately, the employees were left tied up for hours while this was going on and weren't discovered until 6 a.m. the next morning. It was immediately clear that a large amount of money had been lost. But the full scope of the theft wasn't realized until later that day when staff and police conducted an investigation. Investigators pored over security footage which revealed the 4 thieves. It was clear that this was an inside job, and somebody at the museum had helped the thieves in planning the heist. But who? At first, suspicion fell on one of the museum guards who was friends with one of the thieves. And indeed, the thief had tried to recruit another guard to help pull off the heist, but he refused, knowing full well it was wrong. The guard told authorities everything he knew about the thief and even participated in a lineup. But despite identifying his friend as being one of the men in the lineup, the DA decided not to press charges against him. It seems that because of his cooperation, they decided not to prosecute him for his involvement in the crime. Another theory implicated the director of security at the museum. After all, the thieves managed to disable the alarm system without setting off any alarms. It seemed pretty clear that somebody had given them the combination or disabled the alarm earlier. His suspicious behavior after the robbery and the fact that he'd been fired from another job for stealing led to a search of his home. There they found some of the stolen artwork, including a drawing by Rembrandt and a painting by Vermeer titled The Concert. While he admitted to taking the artworks, he denied stealing them. He said that a former boss had paid him to smuggle them out of the country, but this story didn't hold up. It seems he'd simply tried to sell them on the black market, but had been unsuccessful. He was eventually convicted for his role in the heist and sentenced to 4 to 6 years in prison, but this didn't explain how the thieves got in or why they chose the Gardner Museum. And here's where things get really weird. You see, the museum's director believed that they were targeted because of her controversial taste in art. When she took over as director, she had plans to turn the museum into a school for art and had purchased many educational materials for children. As such, she argued that the thieves likely thought that the museum would have minimal security. Regardless, she refused to give up hope that the artwork would one day be returned. And to incentivize its return, the museum offered a reward of up to $10 million. Unfortunately, almost nothing was heard about the case for the next few years. That was until 2013 when the FBI announced that they had uncovered a secret room filled with stolen art belonging to the Gardner Museum. But it wasn't anywhere in the Boston area. It was in a Philadelphia suburb. This new lead came from a former mobster named Miles Connor, who told the FBI about a secret room hidden under the floorboards of a house in the suburbs. Connor worked as a getaway driver for several notorious criminals during the 70s and 80s, one of which was a man named Bobby Donnell. Apparently, Donnell had boasted about a secret room filled with stolen artwork, so when the FBI searched the property, they found a secret compartment under the floor containing 14 of the stolen artworks from the Gardner Museum. The paintings were in good condition, and it appeared that they had been recently moved. One of the paintings even contained fingerprints, which unfortunately belonged to a woman and didn't match anyone in the system. This suggested that somebody else had come across the artwork since the burglary. Though the FBI didn't name him, it's believed that Miles Connor himself was responsible for hiding the artwork here. The paintings were immediately returned to the museum, bringing the total number of recovered paintings back to 9. But none of the sculptures or drawings have ever been seen since. The FBI believes that the remaining pieces were either sold on the black market or broken up and scattered around the world. After this major development in the case, the FBI felt confident that they were closing in on the thieves. Miles Connor became their primary suspect. After all, he was known to be a criminal with ties to Boston, but he was already 78 years old at the time and sick with stomach cancer. Even if they could prove that he was involved in the theft, they doubted he would live long enough to see a trial. So the FBI did something crazy. They cut a deal with Miles Connor. If he cooperated and gave them information leading to the recovery of the rest of the artwork, they would not charge him for his involvement in the theft. Connor agreed and gave the FBI several names, but none of this information panned out. On November 2, 2013, Miles Connor died of cancer at the age of 81. To this day, it's unclear whether or not he was truly behind the remaining thefts or if he was protecting his friends by taking the blame. Sadly, this would be the last major lead in the case for several years. That is until 2020, when a man named Anthony Amore came across a shocking clue. Amore is the security director of the MFA in Boston and has written a book about the theft titled The Gardner Heist. He believes that he has identified the final 2 thieves, though the FBI and the district attorney have yet to confirm it. According to Amore, one of the thieves was a man named David Turner, who was killed in a car accident in 2002. The second man was apparently a mysterious figure named Mr. Big, who served as the ringleader for the heist. Amore claims that Mr. Big is actually a famous mobster named Joseph Barboza. Why do you ask? Well, Barboza was known for masterminding several high-profile art thefts throughout the 1990s, but always seemed to evade the police. In fact, the FBI believes that he was responsible for at least 15 art thefts, totaling over $500 million, making him the most successful art thief in history. However, he was never caught, and even his face was never photographed. Amore is convinced that this Mr. Big character is the same person. But there's a huge problem. Since both of these men are now dead, it means that the case may never be solved. We may never know what happened to the rest of the stolen artwork or where it is today. And this is where the story gets even crazier. In 2022, a man reached out to Anthony Amore, claiming that he had information about the stolen artwork. Amore immediately flew out to California to meet with him, but when he arrived, the man backed out last minute. However, in early 2023, Amore got another call from an anonymous source saying that he knew the whereabouts of one of the stolen sculptures. The two arranged to meet, but once again the informant backed out last minute. But all was not lost. Amore was able to gather enough evidence from his correspondence with the man to pass it along to the authorities, and, much to his surprise, they took action. The FBI has now launched a new investigation into the thefts with Amore serving as their top advisor. However, little is known about the investigation, and the statute of limitations for the theft has already passed. This means that even if they do recover some of the artwork, nobody will be charged for it. So the question remains, will we ever see the return of the remaining artwork, and will it still be in good condition? Or is the $500 million museum heist the biggest unsolved mystery in American history? I don't know about you, but I sure as hell hope that the FBI are able to solve this case and return all of the stolen artwork back to the museum. I would love to see the look on the faces of the donors when they see their collections finally returned. Hopefully, this will happen in our lifetime. Do you think the FBI will ever recover the rest of the stolen artwork? If so, what do you think happened to it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And, as always, thanks for watching.